The first time I slipped on a skirt, it was meant to be a joke. A private, ridiculous experiment that would dissolve into embarrassment and a good story, if I ever decided to tell one. I didn't expect it to rearrange something inside me. My name is Marcus. I'm 27, freelance graphic designer, and my life runs on caffeine, deadlines, and a carefully curated playlist that keeps my hands steady over a Wacom tablet. I live in a sunlit one-bedroom apartment above a secondhand record shop. The place smells like warm paper and lemon-scented cleaner, which, if I'm honest, feels safer than the bright fluorescent world outside. My days are tidy. Client briefs, mock-ups, emails. My nights are where the edges soften, sketching late, trying new hairstyles, and sometimes, when the city slows down, testing outfits in the privacy of my room. I've always been curious about clothes. Not for performance, not at first, just the small, tactile obsession with fabrics and shapes. A skirt isn't just a skirt to me. It's lines movement, the way wind plays with a hem. Years of sketching dresses for imaginary characters taught me how fabric could change posture, how seams could suggest stories. For a while that was enough. Observation, drawing, imagining. Isabella is the steady center to that life. She's a kindergarten teacher with a laugh that bends sunlight. Practical and warm. She owns fewer clothes but cares about them in a way that's honest. Things that fit. Things she can move in. We met at a rooftop exhibit. She spilled wine on a framed print of a protagonist I'd drawn, and our conversation about ruined art turned into hours on a bench watching traffic. She knows the odd corners of me, my obsessive note-taking, the way I save Polaroids of strangers' hands, but there are corners she doesn't know. She thinks I'm shy about public attention. She doesn't know about skirts and sketchbooks or the way I imagine different silhouettes when I pass mirrors. That Thursday evening was the kind of rain-washed quiet I love. Light patter against the window, a jazz record on repeat, the apartment cozy, like a little ship. Isabella had gone to an evening parent-teacher meeting. I had deadlines, but my brain was tired of vectors and color swatches. I wanted something human, something tactile to remind me I wasn't just a series of pixels. I dug through a bag of clothes I'd borrowed from thrift stores, silly, experimental pics for reference photos. A charcoal pencil skirt caught my eye, its waist elastic, forgiving. It seemed harmless. I told myself I'd try it for a single photo, an exercise in movement for a personal project on fluidity. The skirt felt different the second it touched my waist. Cool, then warming to my skin. Buttons of old confidence unfastened somewhere inside me. I stood before the mirror and pushed my shoulders back as if testing a new role. The reflection was at once familiar and bizarre. My hips felt slightly unfamiliar, my posture altered in tiny negotiations I hadn't practiced. I raised an eyebrow at my own reflection and laughed, an incredulous, shaky little sound that broke the loop of routine. I posed for one photo, then another. The camera caught the skirt's sway, the way light folded against the fabric. I posted one picture to a private folder online, a file I meant to forget. The evening drifted into a small, secretful joy that tasted like velvet and warm tea. I felt light in a way my sneakers never managed. The movement felt right in a way I could not have explained then, not imitating anyone, not hiding, but exploring some unarticulated edge. But beneath the joy was a current of dread. I lived with Isabella. The walls were thin. I imagined her returning early, the front door opening while I was mid-spin, laughter stuck halfway out of my mouth. I imagined the small, sharp exposure of being seen this way. That thought made my heart punch the ribs. I almost took the skirt off immediately, but I didn't. Instead, I made dinner in it, stir-fried vegetables, rice, each move creating a new familiarity. The skirt swished when I turned toward the stove. The sound felt ridiculous and intimate. I realized, startled, that I was unconcerned about what anyone else would think in that exact moment. The small domestic acts, chopping, stirring, plating, became a secret ritual of personhood instead of shame. By the time Isabella texted that she was running late, the skirt felt less like a borrowed costume and more like a soft promise. That night, I slept oddly well, the elastic waist forgiving, my limbs cradled in cotton rather than constraint. The next morning, sunlight painted the room in soft honey and Isabella hummed in the kitchen, making coffee. My pulse flickered. I'd expected to panic, an argument, a raised brow, disbelief. But when she came into the bedroom, she paused, looked at me, and smiled in that particular way that says, "You're safe with me." "You look unexpected," she said, not accusatory, just curious. Her eyes flicked to the hem, then back to my face. "It was for a photo," I mumbled, cheeks hot. "Just a test." She sat on the edge of the bed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, and shrugged. "You should wear what you like. It looks nice on you, Marcus." Her casual acceptance did something like unfreeze a tiny, embarrassed part of my chest. There was relief, yes, but also an odd dissonance. Why had I expected fireworks when there was only a quiet nice? The skirt had been a private test, and now it felt like something that could be ordinary between us. The thought made the soft place behind my sternum ache with possibility. Over the next week, the skirt did small, stealthy work on my life. I wore it at home more often, first under the safe disguise of project research, and then because the fabric had become comfortable, like an old t-shirt. On grocery runs, I'd pair it with a faded hoodie and slip into the habit of walking with a marginally different gait, lighter steps, a subtle sway. In coffee shops, I'd pull a sleeve over my hands and sketch strangers who blended into the afternoon, not caring that my legs accepted the movement with a private applause. Still, secrecy hummed under everything. My phone buzzed the day a package arrived, a postcard from an old client asking if I could redo a logo. It felt ridiculous to link professional correspondence to the small revolution in my dresser, and yet the two collided in my head. If someone at a meeting saw me like this, what would they think? Would clients laugh? Would my parents? Would Isabella? The list of coulds made me both fragile and stubborn. Isabella noticed the small changes. She commented on a new pair of flats I'd bought, on the way I'd rearranged my books. She asked gentle questions about my week and listened with that soft intent that made me want to speak honestly. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I would almost say it. I wore a skirt. The words hung on my lips, ridiculous and immense. I didn't say them then. The moment felt too sacred, too undecided to give to speech. So the skirt remained my private companion, a fabric boundary I crossed in quiet rooms and late afternoons. It gave me a shape to practice, curving my hips slightly, softening my shoulders, learning new ways to stand in my own skin. It started as a joke, then a test, then a comfort, then a map. And with each step I took in it, the idea of favorite outfit crept up on me like sunlight, impossible to notice at first, and then unavoidable. That's where the story pauses, for now. The skirt has settled into my life, settling on me the way a new language settles into a mouth. The next decisions loomed. Do I tell Isabella? Do I risk everything to walk into daylight wearing what makes me feel whole? Or do I keep this as a private room where I can practice being brave? For the moment, the hem swings softly, and the city outside keeps turning. I reach for my sketchbook and find that my lines are sharper, my colors braver. Wearing a skirt for fun turned into something else, a quiet discovery that maybe, just maybe, favorite outfits can also be the ones that teach you how to live. Claire froze in the doorway. Her eyes flicked from my trembling hands to the scattered makeup on the dresser, and then to the hem of the skirt peeking from under the blanket I was trying to hide behind. My heart stopped. "Alex," she said slowly. Her tone wasn't angry. It was confused, curious, dangerous. I swallowed hard, every nerve in my body screaming. "See, Claire, it's not what it looks like." She tilted her head. "Really? Because it looks like you raided Isabella's closet." I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. The air felt heavy, like the walls were closing in. Then she smiled. Not mockingly, almost softly. "You know, I always wondered why you paid so much attention when we talked about clothes." "Please," I stammered. "Don't tell her." "Relax," she said, setting the bag down. "I'm not the enemy here." She stepped closer. "Actually, you look kind of cute." Her words hit harder than I expected. I didn't know whether to feel humiliated or flattered. My throat tightened and I muttered, "This was just a mistake." Claire shook her head. Doesn't look like one. She walked to the vanity, picking up the lip gloss. Rose bloom, huh? Good choice. That's Isabella's favorite. Her reflection met mine in the mirror. So, how long have you been doing this? I told you, it's just for fun, she finished, smirking. Yeah, I've heard that one before. Her tone softened. Alex, look at you. You're glowing. Don't act like this is nothing. I didn't know how to respond, because deep down she was right. Hours later, after she left, thankfully, without telling Isabella, I couldn't stop shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline. Someone had seen me and hadn't laughed, hadn't judged. Instead, she'd called me cute. That night, Isabella came home humming, oblivious. She tossed her heels aside, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "Guess what? Claire said she stopped by today." My blood froze. I forced a smile. "Oh, yeah? She said you looked different," Isabella said, grinning.
What did she mean by that?
I panicked. I was in my pajamas. Looked messy. Isabella chuckled. You?
Messy?
That I'd love to see. Then she leaned closer. By the way, you've been acting weird lately. Everything okay?
Yeah.
Totally fine. I lied. She nodded slowly, clearly unconvinced. Over the next few days, the guilt grew heavier, but so did the craving. Whenever Isabella left for work, I found myself drawn to her wardrobe again. It wasn't just about clothes anymore. It was about freedom. Each layer I put on made me feel lighter, more real, more alive. Soon, I stopped thinking about whether I should do it. I just did. The heels clicked against the floor as I practiced walking. The skirt swished with every step. The mirror no longer showed a stranger. It showed someone confident, expressive, graceful, the version of me I didn't even know existed. Until one day, as I twirled before the mirror, lost in the rhythm of the moment, I heard the sound. A key turning in the front door. My blood turned to ice. Isabella wasn't supposed to be home for another hour. I bolted toward the bedroom, but it was too late. She was already in the hallway. Alex. Her voice was closer now. I tried to rip off the wig, but it snagged on a bobby pin. I yanked, panicking. My lipstick smeared across my cheek. The doorknob turned. Wait, I whispered, but the door swung open. Isabella stood there, frozen in shock. Her eyes widened as she took in the sight. The makeup, the skirt, the wig dangling halfway off my head. The silence lasted forever. What are you doing? She finally asked. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Her voice wasn't angry, not yet. Just cold. I stumbled over my words. It started as a dare, but then, I don't know. It made me feel. Feel what? I looked at her, at the woman I loved, and realized I couldn't lie anymore. It made me feel right. Her expression flickered. Confusion, disbelief. Hurt. Right? You mean like you want this? Tears burned at the corners of my eyes. I don't know what I want. I just know I can't stop. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she laughed, not cruelly, but helplessly. You wore my clothes, my makeup, and lied to my face for days. I stepped forward. I was scared. You should have trusted me, she said sharply. Instead, you turned our home into a secret. I could hear her voice breaking, even as she tried to stay composed. She turned away, wiping her eyes. I need air. Isabella, wait. She grabbed her keys and stormed out. The door slammed shut, leaving me standing there, dressed like the person I never meant to become. Hours passed. I sat on the couch, numb, still in the skirt, too ashamed to move. The apartment felt colder without her laughter echoing through it. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Claire. She called me. She's coming over. She knows everything. My stomach dropped. Then another message followed. You should tell her the truth before it's too late. The clock ticked endlessly. Every sound felt amplified. The hum of the fridge, the faint wind outside, the echo of my heartbeat. Finally, the front door clicked open again. Isabella stood there, her expression unreadable. In her hand, she held something, the skirt, I should be furious, she said quietly. But I'm not. I blinked. You're not. She shook her head slowly. Because I think part of me always knew. She stepped closer, her tone softer now. You looked at my clothes like they were calling you. You've been hiding a piece of yourself, Alex. Maybe it's time you stop. Her words made my chest tighten, a mix of relief and fear. She handed me the skirt. So, show me. What? Show me her. My hands trembled as I took it. I slipped it back on, heart racing. Isabella watched silently, her expression somewhere between awe and sadness. When I was done, she reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face. You look beautiful. A tear escaped before I could stop it. I'm sorry. I know, she whispered. Just promise me one thing. Don't lie again. I nodded, barely able to speak. She smiled faintly. Good. Because I think we both have a lot to learn about who you really are. Her hand found mine, warm, trembling. Then, just as the air started to soften between us, her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, and her face changed. Her eyes went wide, alarmed. What is it? I asked. She turned the screen toward me. It was a message from Claire and a picture. A picture of me, in full transformation. With a caption, "You might want to know what your boyfriend's been doing when you're not home." My heart stopped. Isabella's hand slipped from mine. Her expression hardened. She took a picture? I stumbled backward, panic surging. I didn't know. She said she wouldn't tell anyone. Isabella's voice was quiet, too quiet. Alex, what if she already has? I froze. What do you mean? She looked at me, her face pale. This picture, it's been posted. Within minutes, my phone exploded with notifications. Text messages, missed calls, comments. The image was everywhere. Me, standing in front of the mirror, wearing her skirt, her top, her makeup, smiling. The caption read, "Guess he found a new hobby?" The blood drained from my face. Isabella's hands trembled as she stared at the screen. Alex, she whispered. Everyone's seen it. I couldn't breathe. My phone slipped from my hand, crashing to the floor. Outside, a car pulled up, headlights flooding through the window. I heard the car door slam. Footsteps. Then a knock at the door. 3 sharp knocks. Alex, a voice called. It wasn't Isabella's. It wasn't Claire's. It was my boss. The pounding on the door didn't stop. Each knock echoed through the apartment like a countdown. Alex. Open up. I recognized the voice now, Mr. Thompson. My boss. I stood frozen, my legs refusing to move. Isabella glanced between me and the door, her face pale as paper. Alex, she hissed. What if he already knows? I shook my head in disbelief. No, he can't. He wouldn't just come here. But the knocks grew louder. Alex, I saw the photo. We need to talk. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd collapse. Isabella grabbed my hand. You can't let him see you like this. But it was too late. The door swung open before I could react. Mr. Thompson stood there, his jaw tight, his eyes darting from me to Isabella, and then back to the skirt. Silence. He exhaled sharply. So, it's true. I tried to speak, but my voice came out as a whisper. Sir, I can explain. Explain, he repeated. Alex, that picture is everywhere. Clients have seen it. The board's seen it. My vision blurred. Oh my God. I told them it was fake, he continued. But it doesn't look fake, does it? Isabella stepped in front of me. You need to calm down. He hasn't done anything wrong. Wrong. Mr. Thompson's tone sharpened. He's a public representative of our company, Isabella. And he's dressed like... Like what? She snapped. A human being expressing himself? He looked stunned. I had never seen Isabella like that before. Fierce, protective. Mr. Thompson sighed heavily, rubbing his forehead. Look, I'm not here to humiliate you. But this is going to have consequences. I'm trying to save your job. My job. I whispered. It's already gone, isn't it? He didn't answer. He just turned and walked away. When the door clicked shut, The silence was suffocating. The next few hours passed in a haze. My phone kept buzzing, friends, coworkers, even my mother calling nonstop. Each notification felt like another stab to the chest. Finally, I turned it off and sat by the window, staring at the city lights. Isabella placed a blanket around my shoulders. "Hey, breathe." "I'm finished," I murmured. "Everyone's laughing at me." She sat beside me, her eyes soft. "They'll forget eventually." "Not this," I said bitterly. "This is forever." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Maybe that's not a bad thing." I turned to her. "What?" "You've been hiding this part of yourself for so long. Maybe the world finding out isn't the end. Maybe it's a beginning." I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't. Not yet. By morning, the story had spread like wildfire. Office analyst turns into fashion icon overnight. From Excel sheets to high heels, the double life of Alex Rivers. The headlines were brutal. I stayed off social media for days, too scared to see the comments. But Isabella wouldn't stop fighting for me. She reached out to Claire, demanding answers. When Claire finally replied, it was short and cold. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. You looked happy. People should see that." I clenched my fists reading it. She ruined my life, and that's her excuse? But Isabella said something I didn't expect.
She didn't ruin you, Alex.
She revealed you. A week later, my company officially suspended me pending review. They called it a PR crisis. I called it betrayal. I spent my days in silence, hiding, thinking, avoiding mirrors. But one evening, I caught a glimpse of myself again. Not in shame. Not in panic. Just me, half-dressed, half undone. And for the first time since that photo, I didn't flinch. Something inside me whispered, "You're still you." That night, Isabella sat beside me on the couch. She reached for my hand. "Alex, I've been thinking." I looked up, expecting bad news. Instead, she smiled faintly. "Why don't you stop hiding?" My breath caught. "You mean?"
Yes.
"Go out. As you. Not for me. Not for them, for you." The idea terrified me. But something inside me stirred, the same spark that had drawn me to that skirt in the first place. Where would I even go? I asked softly. She grinned. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere that feels like home." That weekend, Isabella drove me to a small community cafe downtown. The sign outside read, "Open Hearts Night." When I walked in, I froze. Everywhere I looked, people were smiling, laughing, men in dresses, women in suits, people just being. No judgment. No shame. Just color and life. A woman at the counter beamed at me. "First time?" I nodded nervously.
"Don't worry," she said.
"We've all been there." Isabella squeezed my hand, whispering, "See? You're not alone." And for the first time in weeks, I smiled. But that peace didn't last long. Later that night, as we left the cafe, I saw a familiar car parked across the street.
"Claire."
She stepped out, her expression unreadable. "Alex," she said, "we need to talk." Isabella immediately stiffened. "You've done enough." Claire raised her hands.
"Please.
Just listen." I hesitated. Something in her tone was different. She pulled out her phone and showed me a message. It was an email, anonymous, threatening her. "You think you can out someone and get away with it? Watch your back." My stomach twisted. "Who sent that?"
"I don't know," she said.
"But it's getting serious. Someone's digging into all of us now, me, you, Isabella." "What do you mean, digging in?" I asked. She bit her lip. "Whoever it is, they've already leaked another photo." "What photo?" Isabella demanded. Claire turned her screen toward us, and my blood ran cold. It wasn't the same picture. It was new. A shot of me and Isabella together in the cafe, laughing, holding hands. The caption read, "The skirt boy found a girlfriend to match." We stood there in the cold night, the weight of it all crashing down again. Someone was still watching, still spreading, still waiting for the next piece of my life to expose. I felt the air leave my lungs. Why won't they just stop? Isabella's voice was quiet but firm. Because they're scared. You're becoming something they can't control. Claire looked between us. Whoever's doing this, they're not just after attention. They're after you. That night, as I lay in bed, the words echoed in my head. They're after you. The story had become more than gossip. It had turned into something else. My phone buzzed again. One final message. Unknown number. The skirt suits you, Alex. Let's see how you handle the next one. Attached was a picture, taken through my apartment window, of me, standing by the mirror. Isabella burst into the room when she heard the sound of glass shattering. Alex, what happened? I held up my phone with trembling hands, showing her the photo. Her face went white. Someone's been watching us. A shadow moved outside the window. Faint, but visible. Isabella grabbed my hand. We're calling the police. But before she could dial, another message popped up. Too late. The apartment lights flickered. A slow, deliberate knock echoed through the door. 3 times. Then silence.